The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, has just released their Assessment Report 6, which, as the name would suggest, is the sixth assessment report that they've done on the issue of climate change. Basically, a huge impact assessment of what's going on in the world, how the climate is changing, how they think the climate will change, and how different government policies can impact what that looks like. The report is depressing. As much as we like to keep things cheery on the Riley Hall Show, this is just very devastating. But it's something that we all already knew, really, especially young people who I think are very, very concerned about this issue. Older people don't really seem to care that much, or view it as this kind of more abstract, long-term thing. Because of course they will probably not be alive when the worst of it hits, but we probably will. So the report starts with the line, "It is unequivocal." And by that they mean, yeah, there is no doubt now, absolutely zero, not a shadow of a doubt among the minds of the greatest scientists in the world on all of these issues, whether it's climate change and global warming, or ecosystem breakdown, or biodiversity collapse, or whatever it is. There is no doubt human beings are causing this problem. It's unequivocal. Right? And so when a lot of climate deniers or people who like to downplay climate change say, well, there isn't a consensus among experts, there is consensus. There has been for a long time, but this is even more definitive. There are even more data to kind of prove that it's our actions that are causing these devastating consequences. But what are these devastating consequences? Well, they lay out the stuff, again, that we already know. The extreme weather incidents and lots of different kinds of environmental and natural disasters will become significantly worse and more commonplace as the decades progress. Things like wildfires and hurricanes and monsoons, heat waves, flooding, all of it will become much more the norm. Even in countries like Britain, obviously we probably will escape a lot of the worst impacts of it in terms of just the climate side of things. But we will be getting battered by floods more, we will be getting much more severe heat waves. And they outline that by 2050, currently it's the best case scenario that we're going to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius warming compared to the pre-industrial revolution levels. And even that would be very bad. So we're probably looking at something significantly worse than that. They don't, in the report, actually outline what we need to do. They don't give policy advice. They don't give us a plan and say, oh, well, we need to do this, that, or the other. We need to do Bernie Sanders' Green New Deal policy, or we need to do Labour's Green Industrial Revolution, or whatever it is. They don't, do that. They're just demonstrating and laying out for us in clear terms how screwed we are, basically. But this is a very, very depressing report, and it comes right off the back of the Tory climate chief, Alok Sharma, saying we are on the brink of catastrophe. That was his warning. So you might be thinking, oh God, okay, well, I guess the government is going to be really kicking themselves into gear now. They're going to be, properly, full steam ahead with all renewables, properly investing in transitioning to green industry, rewilding efforts, all of these kind of things, eventually hopefully getting to carbon neutrality and then carbon negativity, where we're actually taking more carbon out of the atmosphere than we're putting out into it, which would be a very positive thing. So you probably think they're probably making some serious inroads on doing that way before 2050, which is the current target, which we're not even going to reach anyway. You'd be wrong. He said that the COP26 meeting is the last chance, as he backed UK's plan for new oil and gas fields. This is what happens when you have a political system that is significantly corrupted by the influence of big money donations, corporate lobbying. This is what happens. The Conservatives have received millions, I'm talking millions and millions of pounds over the last few years from fossil fuel companies, people very closely connected with fossil fuel companies, or people or organisations that deny climate change or significantly downplay climate change. What did we expect to happen? You know, when a political party is bankrolled by the people who are destroying the planet and profiting off it, do you think that that's just them being nice? Do you think those fossil fuel companies and those climate deniers are just being friendly, like, oh, the Tories need a bit of cash, we'll give it to them, it's fine lads, don't worry about it, you know, you do your thing, we're not going to ask for anything in return. That's not how it works. So that's a huge part of the problem, right? And it's even worse in America, where corporations can literally spend unlimited amounts of money on political campaigns, on political advertising, on whatever it is, candidates, it doesn't matter, right? And that's why when someone proposes actually quite modest climate policy, like Bernie Sanders, or Ed Markey, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they get vilified and called radical left socialists and Marxists and, you know, all these things. Which, you know, a lot of people would argue those words are not actually a bad thing. However, in the minds of Americans, and indeed I think most people, getting called that is a bad thing. And, you know, these plans are diluted over and over and over again until you get what we have in the UK, where we have a plan to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Much better than nothing, obviously, but we're not even on track to reach that, and that is an inadequate target. We are screwed. We are. And the people of the world's democratic developed countries, whether it's in the United States, in Germany, in the UK, in France, in Italy, in Japan, wherever it may be, we are consistently voting against our own interests and the interests of the human race, just over and over again. And so the Conservative Party can have this strange thing where, you know, they can talk the talk, but they don't need to walk the walk, because people will still vote for them anyway. They'll still vote for them anyway. Because they will, you know, ultimately, they're backed by the media, backed by certainly backed by the tabloids. You know, 80% of Britain's media is owned by 3 billionaires. Who do you think the billionaires would rather were in power? The Conservative Party or the Labour Party? Who's going to make them pay their taxes? The Tories are raising taxes at the moment, but they're only doing it to balance the books. And they certainly won't be clamping down on tax avoidance and tax evasion anytime soon. So, you know, good stuff. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, the ultra wealthy, the super rich, they're going to be fine, right? They're going to be fine. Climate change isn't going to be that bad for them. It's the rest of us that are going to really suffer. So what can we do though? Because that's very depressing, but what on earth can we do? Because like I said, you know, there's this baffling thing where we just keep voting for people who have terrible climate policies. Well, first off, we need to get the youth vote out as much as we possibly can every single election, because young people care a lot more about climate change. There's also the fact that we need to be making the argument that this isn't just a moral obligation, it's an economic opportunity as well, which sounds a bit like, ooh, a bit sort of sinister, the way that often people try and monetize the natural world. I'm kind of talking about the opposite. What we need to do is actually monetize our rebuilding of the natural world. And in fact, doing that is actually a very easy thing to do, generally speaking. So we need huge public works programs for rewilding efforts, rebuilding Britain's ecosystems. I'm talking about Britain because I'm British, most of my audience is British, so it makes sense. But in any country, it doesn't matter where you live. Now, of course, if you don't live in a democracy, it's much, much harder. And obviously China is a huge, huge emitter of CO2. And as a developing country, you could argue that you have to forgive them a little bit for that, but they really should be transitioning much faster. to renewable energy. But we need to be talking about how if we invest a lot in good green jobs and renewable industry, we can make Britain a world leader in those kind of things. We can, raise wages. We can get more money in the pockets of working people, which will then circulate throughout the economy, grow the economy, because working people, when they have more money in their pocket, they spend it on stuff. They don't put it in an offshore tax haven like what happens when you do massive subsidies to billionaires or cut their taxes or whatever. That money goes into the economy grows and living standards improve. So even in the short term, this is a very good idea to have a sort of a Green New Deal or a Green Industrial Rebirth or whatever you want to call it. And of course there's the fact that, us in richer countries need to be doing more to help the developing world along with this. Countries like China, right, they're good, they can do it on their own. But a lot of other developing countries are really going to struggle. So, especially countries in Africa and in South America. So we need to be doing our utmost to help them as well. And yeah, a lot of very, very wealthy people don't have to pay more in taxes. I'm sorry, but, we need to do something. Because the planet's kind of on fire. So, and when it comes to not anything to do with electoral politics, there are also things you can do. I mean, attending protests is always quite a powerful message, but boycotting brands that are particularly bad, making sure that you try and minimise your electricity usage, those things are good. It's nothing if we don't get the systemic change. And I think pretty soon we might need to start looking at industrial action, because this problem is not getting any better. Clearly. The Tory climate chief literally admitted that we're on the brink of catastrophe, but still supports the new oil and gas fields in the UK. That is how bad this is. They know they're killing us, they just don't care. So, I want to hear your thoughts on this, Are you terrified by this new report? Or are you actually hopeful it's going to kick people into gear and actually get politicians to start acting in a way that's beneficial? Of course, we've got the German federal election happening this year, and the Green Party are a major political force there now, so who knows what might happen as a result of this election in Germany. Yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you in the next one.